Hillary Clinton just condemned the Democrats and admits what many of them have in common. For reasons unknown to Screen Hoopla, Hillary Clinton spoke at yet another event, but this one was a little different. While trying to defend her failure and blaming others, she threw the rest of the Democrats under the bus. Hillary did some major damage after she admitted something damning about her party.
You may be the only presidential candidate since World War II that actually had to stand up and say, I am a capitalist. And you did. Did it hurt you?
Probably. I mean, you know, it's hard. It's hard to know, but I mean, if you're in the Iowa caucuses and 41% of Democrats are socialists or self-described socialists, and I'm asked, are you a capitalist? And I say yes, but with appropriate regulation and appropriate accountability. You know, that probably gets lost in the, oh my gosh, she's a capitalist.
I mean, we're not exactly sure why Hillary Clinton keeps showing up. She was utterly defeated in 2016 when, defying all odds, the American people elected President Donald Trump to the White House. The corrupt liberals' dream of ruining America was finally destroyed, but instead of skulking away into the darkness, Hillary Clinton continues to shove her face into the camera. She wrote a book trying to explain what happened. We know what happened, Hillary. Donald Trump humiliated you. Hillary has traveled the world, on the U.S.'s dime, no doubt, making excuses for her loss. I guess she still can't believe her 40-year plan to take over the U.S. was thwarted. Every time she appears on a talk show or panel, she has a new person to blame for her failure. It's simply amazing to hear it from the Wicked Witch herself. For so long, Democrats pretended to embrace capitalism, but the truth finally comes out. They don't want private citizens to be rich and successful. They don't want us owning our own homes, cars, or other property. They want an all-powerful government that decides who gets to work, where we can live, and what we can do with our money. Along with that goes what we can say, how or if we worship, and what rights we get to keep. Be sure to share this clip with everyone you know. This is the real Democratic Party. As it turns out, fired FBI Director James Comey had Hillary Clinton's backup email device the entire 2016 election cycle, but never bothered to search it. But today, thanks to the work of citizen researcher Larry Kawa, the determination of Congressman Ron DeSantis, and the lawyers of Tom Fitton's Judicial Watch, a court ruling from the U.S. District Court Randolph Moss ordered the State Department to hand over the contents of the backup device by September of 2018. That's right before the coveted midterm elections where Democrats believe they will be able to win back the House and Senate from the Republicans. This finding apparently came about when the company Hillary Clinton used to store her emails with, Platte River Networks, subcontracted to a company in Connecticut called Datto. Datto backed up the vast majority of Clinton's deleted emails, text messages, and other electronic communications and handed 6 disks containing information to the FBI in October of 2015. One of those disks contained at least a great many of her 30,000 plus missing emails. Comey turned the disks over to the State Department, which has been compelled to search them and release the contents. Has justice been put on hold for political purposes? In one of the recently uncovered messages, former Assistant Secretary of State for Diplomatic Security Gregory Starr communicated to FBI Head of Counterintelligence Bill Priestap that the State Department was getting ready to punish the people who had misplaced the sensitive messages. Quote, "The Department of State is prepared to take appropriate administrative action for any instances of mishandling of classified information in accordance with our own internal processes." Yet justice would be put on hold possibly indefinitely. However, the official added that the department did not want to hinder the ongoing investigation from the FBI, of course, if instructed, would postpone the administrative action over the emails until after the Bureau's case had concluded. From attempted cover-ups to intentionally misleading investigations, many of Clinton's sympathizers and alleged anti-Trump conspirators could be facing serious consequences in the upcoming months. Well, let's not hold our breath. Google and Hillary Clinton just caught in a new shocking scandal targeting President Trump. A senior research psychologist at the American Institute for Behavioral Research and Technology is now claiming that Google did, in fact, favor positive results in searches for Hillary Clinton above those of President Trump, both now and during the 2016 campaign. Robert Epstein continued his Breitbart town hall lecture by explaining the intricate power of tech companies when it comes to elections and the way they use the trust people put in them to influence voters. He added that he had been studying the phenomenon of people changing their minds during elections just by now, and how internet searches and search engines manipulate their searches for more than 5 years, with what he referred to as controlled experiments around the world during national elections using tens of thousands of people who voted. According to Epstein, it turns out that what at the top of the list people believe is better and truer than what's lower in the list. That's why 50% of the clicks go to the top 2 items. So it turns out we showed in our studies that if you favor one candidate in search results, it may be higher ranked results that make the candidate look better. You click on it, it takes you to the web page that makes that candidate look really good. If you favor one candidate in search results among voters who are undecided, you can easily shift at a 20% of them towards that candidate and up to 80% total. And at least one demographic group that we found, and the most vulnerable group that we've ever found in our 5 years of study, is moderate Republicans. Epstein continued by saying there's 2 main things that we have found. We came up with the system, a monitoring system for monitoring search results on Google, Bing, and Yahoo for nearly 6 months before the election in 2016. This story about our findings was broken by the Washington Post in early 2017, and here's what we found. We found that Google's search results favored Hillary Clinton in all 10 positions of those search results on the first page for almost all of those 6 months leading up to the election. Now that's enough to shift 2 to 3 million votes at least, without anyone knowing that they have been manipulated. Amid all of the fervor over Cambridge Analytica's improper use of Facebook data in 2014, turns out that the Hillary campaign did in 2016 was far worse. Hillary Clinton's 2016 presidential campaign may have harvested the Facebook data of millions of people, especially American citizens, using an app that asked them to pair their Facebook friends list with their smartphone's contact list in a bid to reach those people and persuade them to vote for Hillary Clinton. In the midst of the election, the Clinton campaign launched a mobile application called Hillary 2016 that worked its way around the banned practice of gathering information from users' friends without their consent. The Clinton campaign's use of big data raises concerns amid controversy surrounding Cambridge Analytica, a data-driven company with ties to the Trump campaign that was accused of mining Facebook data and using it to target potential voters. But a spokesman for Clinton pushed back against any comparisons with Cambridge Analytica, telling Fox News that the campaign's mobile application merely let users contact their friends about the campaign. Trump and Cambridge Analytica, meanwhile, the Clinton spokesman charged, used stolen data for a purpose that was entirely misrepresented to Facebook. It's the difference between someone asking you to carpool versus them stealing your car. President Donald Trump, however, recently reminded the public that his social media operation was viewed during the campaign as being less expensive and less sophisticated than Clinton's. Special counsel Robert Mueller's team faces Russian truth in U.S. federal court for the first time. A scathingly written report today heaps scorn and ridicule on Special Counsel Robert Mueller and his legal team for their actions in a U.S. federal district court yesterday, when for the first time they faced an actual Russian counterattack against the so-called Trump-Russian collusion probe, and that terrified Mueller's team to such extent they begged President Trump-appointed U.S. federal judge Dabney Friedrich for a continuance, with their afterwards fleeing from the courtroom like little babies in soiled nappies looking for their mommies. According to this report, while leading the deep state coup d'etat against President Trump, the most ill-conceived of and thought-out action ever taken by an American legal official in all of recorded history occurred on February 16, 2018, when Special Counsel Robert Mueller indicted 13 Russian citizens and 3 Russian companies for allegedly interfering in the 2016 presidential election, but whose true intent was to provide mental fodder for the clamoring leftist talking heads of the U.S. mainstream propaganda media establishment needing something more to smear President Trump with. Though being given by Special Counsel Robert Mueller a leftist tabloid headlines like Trump-Russian collusion probe nabs Russian citizens and companies to hammer President Trump over the head with, this report continues that the U.S. mainstream propaganda media failed to inform anybody that this was a joke indictment that converted legitimate American free speech into insidious Russian bots, with it not even mentioning anything at all about Russian hacking, WikiLeaks, or anything else of substance, but that Mueller didn't care about, as he knew that no Russian would ever come to the United States to face these charges. So he thought. It is most unfortunate for Special Counsel Robert Mueller, though, and who should have better known, this report states, was that one of the companies he charged in his joke indictment was the Russian company Concord Management and Consulting, that under U.S. law has corporate personhood that enables it to have the same rights as an individual, and who quickly hired Reed Smith LLP, a global law firm headquartering in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, with more than 1,800 lawyers in 27 offices throughout the United States, Europe, the Middle East, and Asia to defend it. Undoubtedly shaken Special Counsel Robert Mueller to his very core, this report details that on April 11, 2018, Reed Smith LLP attorneys Eric Dublier and Kate Saikali filed notice with the U.S. federal court that they would be defending Concord Management and Consulting against these joke indictment charges, and who followed this notice with a viral avalanche of discovery requests that under U.S. law Mueller must give them. That includes their demanding that Robert Mueller immediately turn over to them 51 categories of information, including details about online platforms the government has discovered, individuals believed to have been involved in charged and uncharged activity, and names of potential witnesses, including all statements, recordings, or electronic surveillance of Concord officers and employees. While this avalanche of discovery demands made on Special Counsel Robert Mueller without a doubt had him shaking to his very core, as to do so would reveal the entire secret workings of his Trump-Russia collusion probe for all of the world to see. As this report continues, what the attorneys for Reed Smith LLP demanded next, and again without a doubt sent actual tremors of fear throughout the entire deep state, and that under U.S. federal court rules known as Rule 12 requests, had these Reed Smith LLP attorneys demanding that Robert Mueller immediately turn over to them all documents and information relating to, from 1945 to present, each and every instance where any officer, employee, and or agent of the United States government engaged in operations to interfere with elections and political processes in any foreign country, including but not limited to information relating to whether any such activity utilized propaganda in any form, including but not limited to the use of social media. This disclosure should include any and all information regarding the use of computer infrastructure inside and outside of the United States, false foreign identities, goals to sow discord in a foreign political system, assistance to a foreign elected official or candidate, attacks on a foreign elected official or candidate, assassination or conspiracy to assassinate a foreign elected official or candidate, buying political advertisements, posing as foreign persons and or failure to honestly identify to foreign voters the involvement of any officer, employee, or agent of the United States government. Knowing full well that under U.S. law he has to provide to Reed Smith LLP attorneys all of the documents and information they've demanded, this report notes that Special Counsel Robert Mueller, however, did no such thing, choosing instead to have his legal team ask for a continuance by outright lying to U.S. Federal Judge Dabney Friedrich and comically claiming that maybe the Russian company Concord Management and Consulting hadn't been served with their summons yet, with their not even bothering to explain how this was so, as Concord's lawyers were sitting right next to them in the courtroom. Equally as worse for Special Counsel Robert Mueller, at nearly the same time his legal team was fleeing from the courtroom of Judge Friedrich like babies in soiled nappies looking for their mommies, the President Ronald Reagan appointed U.S. Senior Federal Court Judge T.S. Ellis III was likewise ripping apart another one of Mueller's legal teams by calling them liars, accusing them of wanting unfettered power, and exposing this deep state charade for what it really is by stating you don't really care about Mr. Manafort. You really care about what information Mr. Manafort can give you to lead you to Mr. Trump and an impeachment or whatever. Even to Special Counsel Robert Mueller's first so-called success in getting General Michael Flynn to plead guilty to a charge of lying to the FBI, this report notes that actually no success at all, with Mueller once again having to postpone Flynn's sentencing hearing for at least another 2 months, and that's no doubt due to the stunning new evidence showing that former FBI Director Comey and other FBI agents testified under oath to the U.S. Congress, stating that, in fact, Flynn had never lied to anyone. General Flynn, meanwhile, while this deep state charade plays itself out, this report states that appears to have not a care in the world with this weekend his traveling to Montana to campaign on President Trump's behalf for the American war hero Troy Downing, who saved countless lives of his fallen brothers and sisters on the battlefields of Afghanistan, and who is seeking to throw out of power the vile deep state monster U.S. Senator John Tester, and about whom just days ago Russian intelligence service operatives revealed was behind the vile honey trap plot to place near President Trump an alleged cult member and physician to Vice President Mike Pence, Jennifer Pena, MD, but whose plot failed and ended in Dr. Pena being ousted from the White House forever. As to why Special Counsel Robert Mueller and the deep state continued to meet failure upon failure in their plot to destroy President Trump, this report details in due to their never realizing that General Flynn, who is one of the most accomplished intelligence operatives in U.S. military history, had already secured a secret immunity agreement with U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions long before he agreed to a plea deal with Mueller, and that allowed him and others like him who agreed to Mueller's plea deals to covertly operate behind enemy lines of Mueller and the deep state. The intelligence tactic of having U.S. government officials like General Flynn plead guilty to charges while having secret immunity deals in order to allow them to infiltrate other U.S. governmental operations, this report explains that was invented by one of the most feared attorneys in modern American history named Roy Cohn, who used this tactic to infiltrate the U.S. State Department and other U.S. government agencies to root out communist spies, and who, while aiding the equally feared President Richard Nixon, operative Roger Stone, both of whom worked to elect the equally leftist despised President Ronald Reagan in 1980, passed on this knowledge to Stone, who used it to protect President Reagan from prosecution during the Iran-Contra affair. In other words, ladies and gentlemen, this goes back decades. With the most powerful man in America during nearly the entire 20th century being FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover, whom even presidents feared to go against. This report concludes one of the most enduring mysteries to Russian intelligence agencies is why the deep state failed to notice that Hoover was so fond of Roy Kahn that he offered him the ultimate accolade in 1954 and insisted that Kahn call him Edgar. Kahn, for anyone bothering to notice, was the original Donald Trump before they declared all-out war on President Trump, particularly because Kahn